Takže dámy a pánové, začneme odpolední částí programu. Ta se bude věnovat...
Now we are going to speak about cargo bikes. There's also one presentation about Sweden and their way of dealing with cycling. However, we are going to start with a presentation by Michal Šindelář, who was at the end of the first part and now at the beginning of the second part. He's going to speak about cargo bikes in Brno. You might have heard about this from the news, so he's going to speak about the functioning of the past few months. Good afternoon, my name is Michal Šindelář. I introduced myself in my previous presentation. So just briefly, I work for the Partnership Foundation, and now I'm not going to speak about Cycling Barometer, but I will tell you something about rental service of cargo bikes. And this system is supported by the UK sponsorship scheme that supports strategies across Europe in order to reduce carbon emissions and to mitigate climate crisis. It focuses on self-administrations, on energy business and other areas, and our project pertains to transportation. I would like to thank for enabling this project because it is something that I consider meaningful in my professional life. So, cargo rental service in Brno. 3 questions: why, how, and what are our results? Why? We were given green light from Germany to try the project, and we decided to focus on cargo bikes. As said, the aim is to reduce carbon emissions, and in the project countries, meaning Czechia, Slovakia and Estonia, how such a rental service could work and whether we could replace car usage. And to prevent any further rise in carbon emissions. The former idea was not any rental service, but just to find out which bikes people would rent, which service they would associate with it, which cargo will they be traveling, etc., etc. I'm going to speak about Brno, but there are 2 other cities, Tartov and Bratislava. We focus on the public, yet on a narrow group. If you Google up cargo rental service Brno, you will find a list of cargo bikes that you can rent. And in Brno, we have 3 cargo bikes, 3 different types, nevertheless. In my opinion, the first type, so-called e-bullet, is composed of an aluminum frame. Then we have a scooter Christiania, and it's the most rented one. And then we also have a trolley Akala. You can place it after an ordinary bike, and there is an electric drive, so you can load it up up to 150 kilograms of load. And these vehicles are fully at people's disposal via an electronic system where you can book it. Everything is free of charge, and here you can actually have a look at the usability of the bikes. When talking about the first one, it basically booked in 99% of time. Christiana is often used for transporting kids. Then on the right-hand side, you can see Bolito, and people often use it during weekends. Still, there are some available dates. And at the bottom of the slide, you can see the last, and people generally use it to work with loads. The rental service ends in July 2021, which is the end of the 5-month testing run. And within 6 weeks, it is expected to finish. As regards how the service will continue, this might be a different presentation. So how does it work? Actually, you can book something online after creating a user account. Then you are provided with short training. You have to fill in certain forms, and should anyone need, there is also an administrator of the rental service who is also available on phone for technical queries. This is the system that works on WordPress. In Germany, there are about 50 such rental services, that are community rental services. And this is the interface. What's really important is that at the top there are 112 confirmed bookings, which is the total number over the 5 months. And already 85 rentals have been made over the 3 months. After every rental, we ask certain questions in a survey for the users. And we always ask the people to fill in the survey because we find it really important. So in order, for example, to find out whether kids have been transported, loading, or miscellaneous materials, etc., etc. So now further to the information. In most cases, our clients transport loads, which is then followed by transportation of kids. And then there is the second question, which is if you didn't have the opportunity to use a cargo bike, how would you have performed the trip? And in most cases, people would use cars. In 55% of cases, people would use cars, so it's a replacement of car transportation. Other possibilities are, for example, public transportation or bike. The experience of the people is generally positive. Let's say 95% of people plan on reusing this service, and the majority of the people are first-time users. And if the people try the service out, they want to make use of it again. And about 53% consider purchasing a cargo bike in the future. And there have already been people coming in touch with us, asking where they could purchase such vehicle. In the first pie chart, you can see how people mostly use the cargo bike, or how often do they use it. Some people say that I had never used it before, that some of them use it several times a year, and some, and that is actually the orange part, every month or more often. As regards the second figure, the question is, how do you typically travel around the city? And in the first column, we can see that people use car several times a month, several times a week as well. Here we can speak about demography. The majority of our clients are men who transport their kids, and 67% of our clients have a university degree, the rest a high school degree. As regards the age on the right-hand side, the prevailing group is about 37 years of age. After the project has finished, a report will be available about the results. And this is the mostly utilized bike, but unfortunately it cracked and now it's being repaired. So the experience that we gather regarding the use of the booking system, maintenance, or anything else, this can happen. This is what happens ordinarily. And of course, everything requires work, and there are also costs involved. So the aim of this pilot run is to answer questions related to all this. Soon, this is going to be repaired, and now I would like to thank you for your time. Thank you. I hope that the interpreters were able to cope, because it was fairly brisk, but I still hope you coped with it. Now we are going to carry on. We're going to follow up. From Slovakia, we have Daniel Duris from Bratislava, and he is in charge of a service that rents bicycles to state administration.
Tak dobrý deň, moje meno je Daniel Duriš, som z Cyklokoalície.
Good morning, my name is Daniel Duriš, I'm from Cyklokoalícia from Bratislava. And I'll continue in English.
So this is our experience with cargo bicycles rental in Slovakia. We are mostly renting only to municipalities, cities and villages, and also to some companies, private companies, but not to individuals. So we have a little bit different experience. All right, so we have 4 cargo bicycles. Similar, one is similar, the trailer is similar to what Michal was showing in Brno. But since we are targeting mostly municipalities, we try to find bicycles that could serve their purposes. For example, this street cleaning bicycle that features a trash bin and a broom. This is how it looks. This is what we are offering to municipalities. We have another cargo bicycle which is actually meant for street cleaning as well, but it is called a disinfection bicycle because the Spanish company that produced and manufactured it created it for COVID-19 purposes. So this is another example with a pump, and I mean it can have some cleaning liquids and so on. Of course, electrical as well. even the pump is electrical. Then we have a big cargo bicycle with 300 kilograms of transport possibility, and yeah, it can be used by couriers as private companies or for transporting something for municipalities. And it features also a fully secure box with that it could be opened with an electrical card, so it's quite secure if left somewhere outside. And then we have this e-trailer that we rented, for example, to a bike sharing company for transporting bicycles. And this is how it looks. We have this addition to it, a module that could be used for transporting multiple bicycles. And now I'll talk about our experiences with the municipalities. We really rented it from Bratislava to Košice, so from west to east of Slovakia, and there were different experiences. So, for example, what the e-trailer was used for in Bratislava was to gather the trash and transport it to the trash cans or courtyard meant for trash, because there are some illegal trash mounds in Bratislava as well. But they also used it, for example, for small fixes like road signs and similar. This is the street cleaning bicycle I was talking about. They used it for cleaning purposes of, for example, cycling paths. Cleaning it from weed, and also for example, train station cleaning or around train station, and then also in Košice for pedestrian sidewalks and just public space. So it's a multi-purpose bicycle. This one has been a little bit repurposed, so we took down the disinfection bicycle cans and so on, and one of the companies just use it for transporting food in a smaller town out of Bratislava. I mean, that's about it. And we have more of these. So, for example, the most wanted bicycle is the street cleaning one. Nobody is really interested in the disinfection bicycle, unfortunately. Opposite to what we were expecting, but when we were ordering these bicycles or renting them, that was almost a year ago. So we were more counting on the first COVID wave to be covered. So what our experiences show that if we had, for example, more bicycles for street cleaning, they would be definitely used, because now we have to, for example, rent it for 2 weeks, a month maybe, and then there are more municipalities waiting. They are also using the bicycles for small, quick fixes or quick wins that could be done from street cleaning to some road signs fixing and so on. Then some private companies as couriers and so on are using the bicycles, especially the e-trailer, but also one of the other ones for transportation, either food transportation or packages transportation and so on. Unfortunately, the disinfection bicycle is a fail. And we have the similar survey form as Michal was showing, and since a number of our rentals is much lower, because we are renting to municipalities, but we already have some advantages mentioned, and this is that they are actually saying that these bicycles would serve to their purposes for quick fixes, because they are also cheaper than using a car. They can get to places where cars, their street cleaning cars or similar, cannot get, because they can, for example, use them in hilly terrain in Košice, where there are lots of steps and narrow streets and so on, so they can get to places where similar cars in use cannot get. So this is the advantage mentioned. Also that it's quite cheap, because you just need to charge it from time to time since it's electrical, but it doesn't really have any other expenses except for maybe fixing it from time to time. And the disadvantage is what they mentioned is that of course, it takes a little bit of training in the beginning or to get used to it, how it works, how the, I don't know, electrical control works and so on. Some of these bicycles are quite heavy, but they miss the parking brake. So when they are just left, for example, in a hilly terrain, they could start moving. But I think this is easy to fix by just adding a parking brake. And some of the respondents were also afraid of possible theft when the bicycle is left outside and they need to, for example, deliver the package, or they just need to leave the bicycle outside, that it's not safe and it could be stolen. So for their purposes, some kind of better locking mechanism, either with the electrical engine or some different one, should be improved. Yeah, I think that's about it. And if you have any questions, I'll happily answer in Slovak or Czech.
Díky moc.
Thank you, Dan. I think that was a very interesting presentation, how you can use cargo bikes in practice. Do you have any questions? If not, then we have the last partner here in this project, which is Janus Tam from Estonia, from Tartu. Janus, are you here? Oh.
Will you do the presentation yourself?
Yeah, I
Okay.
will share my screen shortly.
So you can introduce yourself. I just said that you are the third partner of the project, and you are from Tartu, Estonia, and you are going to talk about the public cargo bike rental.
Yes, exactly. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Janus Tam, and I am coming from Tartu city, from Estonia. And I will shortly introduce our bicycle library and what's going on here in terms of usage of cargo bikes. So Tartu is a small city in north in Estonia. It's the second largest city in Estonia, and with inhabitants around 100,000 citizens. We are a student city, and almost half of our citizens are younger than 35 years old. And we are also a scientific center here in Estonia, and Tartu University is, I guess, the most famous university here in Tartu and in Estonia as well. So, coming to our bicycle library, we launched our library in January, in the end of January this year. We started with 3 cargo bikes. 2 of them are rather meant for families, and one is a pure cargo bike. But of course, this family bikes are also suitable for carrying cargos. It's possible. So we started in quite complicated situation because there was quite cold in January, in February, and also in March. Partially in Tartu, we had quite a lot of snow here. And we were in the beginning very afraid how this library will be used and what will be the interest among citizens and companies. But we are very happy because there was quite great interest, especially from the side of private users, I mean from families, not so much from companies. But basically, all our bicycles were lended and booked until July already. And the average lending period is from 10 to 14 days. It means around 2 weeks. And it's why, because cargo bikes are not very common here in Estonia, in Tartu as well. We have some enthusiasts and who have cargo bikes and using them, but in general they are quite rare here. And users or lenders need to have a little bit more time to prove bicycle and to get all benefits from this usage or from this session. And from end of January until May, we had in total 25 lending sessions, mostly on family bikes, a little bit less on cargo bike. And there have been made different trips with these bikes, starting from half of kilometer until the longer one was a 24-kilometer trip. But mostly trips are between 2 and 5 kilometers. Tartu is not a big city; it's quite compact, and basically from the city center to any point in the city border is around 2-3 kilometers, no more. So its distances are quite shorter here. And our library is operated by the subunit of the city government. Its name is Linna Transport. This is a company who is operating our bike sharing system, public bike sharing system also. And we plan to have this bicycle library one part of our public transport system also. Of course, our main focus is on cargo bikes for logistic, but first impression is that the most interested group is rather families. And we need to do a lot of work among companies to gain more usage from them. So what we also did quite a lot of media work before we started our library and during, and this is like a continuous work. There was quite big interest because this is a new thing here in Estonia, and there was quite a lot of media coverage in written, in TV, and also in radio. And this is coming. Our library is becoming more popular with every day. What we also did, we issued supporting documents. We ordered introduction of cargo bikes for companies, also for private users. And also recommendations on improvement of the use of cargo bikes for municipalities and for state as well. And we spread these documents as much as we can, and they are also quite useful to be familiar with cargo bikes before beginning of uses of these bikes. So, and what we plan to do is very soon we will widen our system, and we will buy more bikes in July, August. There will be, in addition, 14 to 18 new cargo bikes, mostly electrical ones, but some regular as well. And they will be in different makes, just to give an opportunity, especially for companies, to choose different options. for they need. And what we also discovered, we have at the moment quite well functioning booking system, but people wants to have more convenient system. And what we plan to do in next month is to create this automated maintenance and landing point in the city center to be more close to our customers and also to issue new booking solution, which is connected also to this landing point, and through the booking system is also possible to open doors, for example, in landing point. And of course, we need to do a lot of work with companies. This is our main focus in coming March, and because city center is quite overcrowded with ones bringing food and other different goods to city center area. And especially in morning hours, it's some days very complicated rather to cycle in some streets because they are full of ones. And this is maybe biggest challenge we need to solve in coming months with help of our cycling library or bicycle library. So this is very general and very brief what we are doing here, and also maybe one more good thing is that in national level there is initiated new support measure for electrical vehicles, and one part of this measure is also electrical cargo bikes. So this is not launched yet, but it will be launched in coming months, and we hope very much that this measure will also boost the cargo bike usage here in Estonia. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Janus. I mean, thank you also for speaking slowly so the interpreters could do their job. Někdo máte dotaz k téhle prezentaci?
Anybody has a question for this presentation?
Bikes, new cargo bikes. What's the situation now on the market? Because we know that regular bikes are almost sold out. How is the situation with cargo bikes?
No, basically it's the same. Situation is very complicated, and the procurement is going on at the moment. But as much as we got feedback from interest parties, that our delivery times are 2 to 3 months longer than usual. But still it's possible. Maybe there will be some delays, of course, but at least by the end of summer, we hope very much to have these bikes here in Tartu. But the situation is complicated, of course.
Okay, good luck. Right. Good luck with this.
Yeah.
There's one more question.
Václav Kříž, hello. I would like to ask whether if it's possible if someone visits Estonia, and maybe most people will visit Tallinn. I remember when I was there are like 3 railway stations and 1 bus station. Is it possible to rent a cargo bike or bike there to be in the city on practical mean of transport?
Not of course our bikes which are located in Tartu, but I know that in Tallinn there is also one private company who is offering renting of cargo bikes. To be honest, I'm not aware how many bikes they have at the moment, but this possibility is not in stations, but they have a dedicated point in the city where you can take these bikes, but unfortunately not our bikes.
Okay, then thank you, Anus. We'll go to the next presenter. Thanks, goodbye, we'll see each other at the next meeting. Takže já bych poprosil pana Roberta Sobčáka z Magistrátu hlavního města Prahy, protože ten...
I would like to ask Robert Sobčák, because he will make a presentation about logistics, and I'm very looking forward to it.
Thank you. Recently, I have become the leader of a project, and I'm going to speak about the project, or rather projects related to cyclo-cargo depots. But at first, I would like to put everything into perspective. Let me ask you a question. Do you have any guess as to how many depots we would need in the whole of Prague to be able to deliver all parcels around Prague? 200, you said. Well, the rough estimate is quite precise. 200. I'm not going to ask you anything further, but you can imagine that it wouldn't be too efficient to have 200 depots in the city. And still, we are just talking about parcel logistics. Now, think about emissions. Think about traffic jams are related to vans and to lorries that lead to even more emissions. So the topic is fairly broad. However, cargo bikes are a useful tool to sort out the situation. So I'm very happy that cyclists have taken the initiative to build up the infrastructure. Needless to say that city logistics is increasingly important, especially with respect to COVID, because everyone purchases their stuff online. You know that the topic of city logistics has been around for about 2 decades. But it isn't working anywhere. Today I have read an interview that said that Europeans only innovate when it's absolutely necessary. And cargo logistics and cyclo-logistic projects tend to cease when the funding runs out. And this is important to realize. Many people think that when we are talking about green logistics, the first question is who is going to pay for it? If it's going to be the customer or all of us, taxpayers. And this is a big issue because everyone is looking for simple, efficient solutions. When we are talking about emissions, the fewer emissions we get, the higher the price is. So the topic is much more complicated than it appears at first sight. Later, I'm going to show you some images that will tell you that logistics requires changes to flow, to cash flow, what to do with railways, what to do with lorries. When we are talking about parcels, it is also important to speak about, say, parcel boxes, which are a trade-off, meaning that the customer can pick up their own parcel without the need to transport themselves. Still, this would require changes to material flow. We have cancelled certain depots outside Prague. And the basic logistic idea is that at first we collect the parcels outside Prague, and then everything is moved back to Prague. So every single parcel covers a large distance, much larger than necessary. So it's not necessarily only about vans, only about cargo bikes, but we need to dig deeper. So let's move on to the other slide. To the next slide. Another aspect is that the change to purchasing habits, that people used to purchase goods from brick-and-mortar shops, means that such shops were sort of natural distribution centers. So a relatively big vehicle brought the goods into the garage of the shopping center, and then it was transferred to trolleys. But this is coming to an end as well. So we reveal the problem of parcel logistics. So all of you may know the typical problems of transportation, such as physical limits. Streets centuries ago were not built for this volume of traffic. 5 minutes left. Brilliant. So it's necessary to do something about it. And the typical aims, the typical problems are carbon emissions, carbon footprint, safety. This is all something that sustainable logistics facilitates. And these measures are meant to improve on the lives of the public. This is the first project, Micro Depot Florence, which is interesting in the European perspective. It is interesting because it's low cost from the perspective of the city, meaning that the city doesn't pay anything, and the only advantage is that the city gave up on, say, the income of the places. So this is probably the biggest sacrifice of the city. And from this viewpoint, and also from the European viewpoint, it is a cost-efficient and sustainable project. Everything started about 6 months ago, so soon it will have been half a year. And now the project has been transferred from a pilot run to an unlimited time project. And this all shows that logistics is meaningful. I am a experienced person in this respect. And most of the companies and most of the people who do it, they do it because it makes sense, not because of promotion reasons. It helps the city. The fact that something is done is not important in this case. it stands a better chance to be moved into an ordinary way of parcel delivery in Prague. Let's move on. Here, we can see the figures regarding the first 6 months. So as many as 6,000 parcels have been delivered. So we can say that the first months were just for testing purposes, testing cargo. Some companies returned the bikes, and now they are purchasing professional bikes that would be in line with their requirements. My personal estimation is that the number of parcels that will be delivered monthly will increase to 10 to 20,000 per month, which is an interesting number, definitely. It's not going to be just a test or an experiment. I'm not going to speak about the individual figures, but I think that it is evident that the numbers are becoming self-evident. Every month, 1 or 2 companies actually leave the project, but still actually we are expecting a growth of the companies involved. And we hope that this project has persuaded officials about the importance of the project. Now, equipment is being ordered, approval processes are being held because the city gives up on certain funding. So everything needs to be approved. Part of the companies that will be on the Prague quarter Anděl will also be found on Florence, another quarter. I'm very happy that also other companies that are not typical delivery companies will be added, but we are successful at convincing them about our project. I don't want to speak about all such companies, but for instance, it can be zásilkovna, a form of the Czech Amazon, so to speak. And this is a big achievement. This is an interesting image, interesting slide. I've hinted at the fact that we have depots in the suburban areas, outskirts of Prague. The logistics of the future, as we would like it to see, is a system, a network of city depots where one parcel will be picked up at the closest depot and will only make a short distance where it will be sorted and sent to the depot that is found in the vicinity of the final customer. Still, this is a long-run initiative, but this is the future of urban logistics that we are talking about. Definitely, we should involve also railway cargo transfers. So the changes we are expecting are going to be quite significant. I'm going to skip this step, the strategy of city transfer depots. You know about the circle, actually, move of the parcel moving from A to B. You can imagine what is happening in the storage. From the process point of view, we can say that it's ancient times. Professional logistics companies don't work in the way that everything has to be moved from A to B through a variety of different steps. So the depots also have to work in a highly professional manner. But of course, this requires time. If I should say in a nutshell something about logistics, it's not about repeating a simple concept, but it's about adopting a startup way of thinking, meaning starting simply and evolving. So I believe that this is everything. Does any of you have any questions? Hello? In terms of my logistics, I would like to make use of cyclo-highways along railways. There are not many of them in the Czech Republic now. And if I need to be in Brno in 2 hours, I would like to make use of a train. Right now, I would recommend using the Panther trains. However, I think that it would be good if more trains could provide this particular service in communication with certain railway companies and the country. Well, this is not necessarily my topic. We are talking about family logistics, and this is not my area. I've been communicating with the Ministry of Transportation of the Czech Republic. However, I think that there is still a long way ahead of us. Let me thank you for this presentation. Urban logistics is an elaborate system, and the companies that you have seen that have been involved in the cargo bike depots initiative, these are really the top-notch companies in this business. And today I would also like to welcome here one of the companies, a company that started off as a cycling company, cargo cycling company, and it has evolved into a company that focuses on delivery with couriers. We were talking about cargo bikes, how private persons use cargo bikes, how cities use them, and now we can take a look at this from the company perspective.
Thank you for the floor. Good afternoon. It is as my colleague said, it all started that we started to create our own solution in 2010. Well, and because there was a question about family logistics, but cyclo-logistic is an old concept. It is at least 200 years old concept. And if people think that they know everything, they will try to move to the commercial sphere. So we were trying to create a community, and we created cargobikers.cz. And if you are on Facebook, you see it, our name there. We are updating the types of our bikes and our results on our web as well. This presentation will be short but you can see the pictures on our website, but I would like to share everything you are interested in. This is quite a young history. This company who is operating this concept, we are 10 years old right now. In February, there was a birth of idea. We've originally thought that we would provide cargo bikes to other operators, but we were wrong, obviously. Because they would like also have another services with them. But we needed to rent a space, and in 2018 and 19 it wasn't very common to have a space like that. We also created our internal code so that our delivery cargo bikers won't clash with other riders or drivers. We have a registered trademark, and we expanded in Pražská tržnice, which we thought was the most suitable location in Prague. And in Prague we have a quite fast-growing infrastructure, and people like to come back, for example, from another part of Prague. So I'm very happy what is happening here in Prague. I often recommend and I'm happy about the things which are happening in Prague, and I recommend them to other cities as well. February 2021 is quite interesting. We started to deliver pallets. We thought that if we have 50,000 deliveries from when we started, we thought that we could also use pallets. Right now we've already delivered 500 pallets, and right now we are creating new special bikes which are capable of delivering pallets. We are founding Cargo Biker Academy. That is basically teaching the couriers, so they are as well. They are service mechanics as well, so they could cooperate with mechanics. We want our people to enjoy the work, so they don't have to only work, but they can relax in depot, and that they are interested in our bikes and they know what to do with them. We want to offer our mechanic services as well to other companies if they are not sure from the technical point of view, because there are not very cycle shops around this problem in Prague. In June 2021, I'm coming from Hradec, and I went by a shared bike to the train, and then I again switched to another bike. So I'm very happy to see that these systems are coordinated and connected, and it works. We also have a manufacturing of cargo bikes, so many of our bikes are created so that they can travel by trains. And we hope that these carriages will continue to operate. Before they can renovate or buy new trains capable of storing these cargo bikes. Then we would like to share the positions of couriers and the future look, December of 2022. We would like to have a presence in every municipal city in the Czech Republic. We will see how it goes, but right now we are in Prague, Brno, or Hradec Králové. So let's see what it looks like in the future. This stamp is something that we were having fun with. It should have the word kolo in it and also the logistic. Then there's as well an E, like electrical bike, and I use it myself as well, but sometimes, but I think that the conventional means of transport, we are still above them, and even if it's electric bike, it is still more efficient than a car, even electric car. And it's, of course, it's worse with trailers. About the cities outside Prague, we've already talked about it. We have a unique fleet of CT4L bikes. This was created because we needed a shorter bike, because you can see it on the streets, so maybe you know what I'm talking about. You can see it on our web. We've created one long bike, but then we've realized that the box is too short, so this one is 480 liters. So this is what it can look like. We are at 960 liters, and I'm not talking about the pallets yet. We have this stamp. We've been talking about it for a long time, how to stamp the parcels delivered by this modern method. So if something like that could happen here as well, it would be a huge plus, because some of our clients are offering this type of cargo delivery. I see a colleague from Karlín who is not only delivering me parcels but also soups. So we are experimenting with different transportation. It sometimes can be quite tricky, for example, with hot food. So there's an interesting topic. Well, the version of IT environment. This is what our location of deliveries looks like. You can see cargo biker application below. There are details of each parcel, of each delivery. You can, of course, find certain location, or if you need some proof of delivery, for example. You can download it on Google Play, and for other systems we have other possibilities. We are trying to connect to REST API with the web shops, online shops. In the meantime, we created IT, or let's say interface, or we have a developed a new system of deliveries. Now I'm showing you the calendar. As some of the previous speakers said, that in winter, for example, in Norway, you can drive during winter, so we wanted to try that, and not only in Prague. So this picture is presented in January, and each month has its own story from the season, from the time. So it's possible to purchase this calendar, and I hope it really will be done. It will be printed. But I can see that the time is running out, but if you have any questions, the floor is yours. Okay. Police from Ostrava is recording at least three people that are trying to get trying to deliver their goods, but you can see that the roads are not very suitable for that, and cargo bikes have different physical proportions than car or normal bikes. So I would like to ask you if you are trying to modernize the rules for even normal roads. Well, if it's possible, we want to use as much normal bikes as possible, because if they are wider, there's a problem. And for example, it's not good for the couriers as well. So we would need betterment of the cycling infrastructure as well. But if this personal infrastructure for bikes is not completed, that the space for this cargo biking is very problematic. I was looking at Vienna, and you can see that there are signs which bikes can use cyclopaths and which cannot. So we are trying to use the motorways, and so not to block personal infrastructure, personal cyclopaths. But if we cannot use these personal paths, we need to be careful, and we know it. So because the bikes have their own dimensions, so we try not to really block the space at all. And if we park, we try to block the streets as little as possible. Is there any other question? Everybody is looking forward to the ride in the afternoon. Thank you, and then we will move to Sweden, to the presentation. And it's from Michael Kowski.
Genau.
I can speak Czech, right? You can speak however you want to. So I yield the floor to you, and you can present. I'll try to share my screen, but I hope you can see it. Okay, hello, good morning.
Because it's easier for me, but if there's any questions, feel free to ask them in Czech. I can understand reasonably well. Thank you for having me, and I'm really sorry I can't be in Prague. I would love to join the cycle ride and not just sit in an office here. And I'm aware of that you've been listening to presentations the whole day now, so I will be brief and try to be to the point. Now, My name is Michael Kowski, and I run a consultancy on sustainable mobility in Sweden. And we work with all kinds of mobility and transport, but cycle traffic is of special interest because simply it's good and it's necessary and it's important for cities. And it's a special interest of mine as well. And Daniel Morek asked me to present a bit of observations on the impact of the pandemic and of COVID on cycling, and maybe some reflections on what could stay of that, and what happens, what can we learn, and maybe not just the normal standard issues. And let's see, I have a few minutes simply. Now, as in most countries, and I'm sure it's the same in Czech Republic, during this COVID year, and it's still ongoing, of course, traffic figures have dropped. Despite what many people think, life hasn't just gone on in Sweden either. So we have stayed at home a lot. There's been a lot of home office, quite a bit of homeschooling, and travel figures generally on all modes have gone down. The only exception is cycling. Cycling figures are reasonably stable. So relatively seen, cycling has actually increased. In some cities, it actually even has increased in total figures. And especially in the cities. You can see there's a graph showing the development of cycling in Stockholm the last 10 years. And it's been a steady increase. And it has not stopped, not even during COVID. So this is great. Not everything is great, of course. You have to be aware of that. Cycling is growing in the inner cities, and in large cities, we have a decline of cycling in the countryside, and partly also amongst young people. And I think it's probably similar all over, but it's a big concern. But in the cities, cycle traffic is increasing, and COVID has actually helped, you could say, in that sense. And the reason is, of course, that people avoid public transport for obvious reasons. Public transport has dropped 35%. Car traffic is stable, a bit declined. Cycle traffic has increased, as said. So people are replacing public transport by biking. So far, not a big surprise. And this is also manifested in that there is far more bikes sold. So the last years, the sales of bikes have increased at like 30% compared to the year before. And it could have been more. The reason it didn't grow more is that there were no bikes. The shops simply ran out of bikes. And this is an international phenomenon. I'm sure it's the same everywhere. But it's a very clear indicator that the pandemic was a tipping point for people to get a bike, to actually start cycling, for leisure, for commuting, whatever. We can see that both in the shops, we can see a very clear increase in secondhand sales on the internet. We can also, unfortunately, see that there's more bikes stolen, simply because there's more demand, I assume. So it's easier to sell. So that is one of the take-homes, that there's more bikes in people's hands than basically ever before. They're also used more, so that is a very positive thing. And if you buy a new bike, you're quite likely to actually, at least in the beginning, to start using it and hopefully use it more even afterwards. So that is the positive surprise. The bigger surprise to me, at least, or if you look at the data more clearly and more in detail, then you find that the biggest increase in cycling was not actually in the commuting and not in the city center, but a bit outside in the outskirts of cities and on times where people don't commute, so on weekends, in the evening. So cycle flows have increased in leisure time. And a logical explanation to that is that people stay more at home and in their surrounding, and they start to try to find ways to do things without having to travel far. And also training and sports, it's individual. You don't have to be in a team. You don't meet many people if you don't want to. So there's been a clear increase in leisure cycling and also sports cycling. And we can also see a very clear increase in cyclotourism in the bookings of the domestic cyclotourism. So as I'm sure the same in Prague and in the Czech Republic, international tourism has basically collapsed. But to some extent, this has been compensated by more domestic tourism, and more sort of outdoor tourism. We have almost a bit of a problem that nature reserves and some trails and some well-known parks are actually overflowing with people now, because people that usually didn't and before didn't go there and didn't cycle or didn't hike, and now they don't know else what to do and to discover their surroundings and do that by bicycle, which is in the end a good thing. And I'm sure once you've started coming into that kind of exploration and cycle touring, and that a lot of people will continue to do that even after the pandemic. So it's probably a permanent change. Another aspect of leisure and cycling is sports and sports events. Now, for obvious reasons, we had no large cycling events whatsoever last year. We have a few really large events like Wettenrundan, which is basically a sort of folk race around the lake. Usually like 30,000 people attended. We have a mountain bike race, a public race that with 15,000 people coming, and all of them were cancelled, which of course was a disaster. But then the organizers started to provide digital events for the people that had enrolled before or were interested. And it turned out that this was quite successful. So actually last year, a couple of 10,000 people participated in these sort of virtual digital events. They were cycling on their own, at home, the same distances. They had apps that said, yeah, well, basically you made it now. You've like Wettenrundan is 300 kilometers. So you sort of really had an achievement. It was official that you managed if you logged your trip. And interestingly enough, now this year, most of these events will actually take place, maybe a bit postponed, but the digital option is still provided. So this is one of the things that happened, that bicycle events, large-scale bicycle events actually partly got digital. And I think this is going to stay as an option. People still will want to go to the real race, but you can either do the real race, you can do the real race, but in a different time when it pleases you, and you log it digitally, or you do it from home and just do the same distances. So it's a different approach to sort of cycling events, which to me it was new, and it showed that it's actually quite successful, and it's going to stay. Now, of course, cities in Sweden and as all over the world have taken measures, tried to adapt to the situation. One immediate measures from Gothenburg, where I am at the moment, is that the city made the public bikes free for everyone to use for 30 minutes. We didn't have that before, so this was sort of an immediate, spontaneous measure to increase accessibility and also to relieve public transport, because as everywhere, we had recommendations not to use public transport if not necessary. So bikes were a sort of a possibility to avoid that. Then when it comes to infrastructure, honestly speaking, not that much has been done. There has been a few sort of temporary solutions. On the picture on the left, you see a blue line in the street where the cyclist is. Now, on the right of that's the actual bike lane, and just next to it is the pedestrian lane. And that has caused problems, and it's narrow, as you see. And to avoid these conflicts, and especially to give pedestrians more space, now the bicycles have been moved out of the bike lane and into the street. And the street speed has been reduced, and it's been officially made as sort of a bicycle street. So the side effect of that was actually there's more space for cyclists as well, but you have to mix with cars. And pedestrians love it. The bicyclists, it was a bit mixed reviews. Some have no problem with it. Others don't really like to mix with cars. But a clear impact of that was that there's more of these solutions coming, that we mix bicycle traffic with cars at low speed, because it's simply the easiest and quickest way to provide more space, but also to separate cyclists and pedestrians in a better way. So that is one thing that is going to be more permanent. There will be more slow speed mixed traffic as learning from this solution. Another surprise that I didn't really expect, there's always been a bit of a conflict and a bit of mistrust between public transport and cycling. For no real reason, but public transport companies often have seen cycling either as competition or just something that's in the way, or, you know, whatever. But now during pandemics, when there was a clear need to reduce the number of people in the trams, in the buses, cycling suddenly became interesting also for public transport. And it's been quite a change in attitude, at least here in Western Sweden, where the public transport provider now formally started to embrace cycling. There's been a large campaign aimed at cyclists. Thank you that you cycle. Thank you that you help us keeping the trams and the buses less crowded. Sort of an appreciation, but also sort of a public transport funded advertising campaign for cycling, which is unheard of. Another novelty, which I think is more interesting in the long run, is that the public transport company has integrated cycling into their travel planner. So now when you, in your app, as everyone does, tries to look at what public transport connection can I have, let's say to go from my place to my office or whatever, you will always also get a bicycle connection as a suggestion with the estimated travel time, with the suggested route. So you always get the information on cycling as well. And at least at the moment, we also can see the sort of estimated level of crowdedness of the trams or in that. So there's an estimate how many people are expected in that. So then I can compare how crowded is it, how long is the travel time. So I get immediate information, is the bike a better option or not? This is, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it actually is, because for the first time ever, public transport is advertising cycling in an active way and providing the information within their tools and within their travel planning platform, which is great. And this is going to stay, because now they've made it, they've invested into it. There's no reason to change that again. And I think actually that Västervik is first in Sweden. I hope others will follow in that. And thirdly, and we've heard quite a lot of it already, and I'm very happy that you've spoken so much about cycle logistics. This is one of the biggest sort of impacts of COVID, if you look at cycling from a wider perspective, is that cycle logistics have exploded. Obviously, the main reason being that the shopping behavior has changed. There's much more internet shopping, there's much more home delivery due to COVID, due to that we're much more home. And that has really boosted the already quickly growing cycle logistics sector. So we have depots, we have several professional cycle logistic companies, and they are getting contracts for the large distributors. So now IKEA, as an example, does their home delivery in Malmö directly from a train to the customer. So it's not even going through a middle depot. The goods are already pre-packed in a train wagon. They're picked up by the bike couriers and delivered into the city. Another trend is that cities, for their cities are large organizations as well as city administration, and they have started to procure cycle logistics instead of trucks. So the internal transports within, let's say, the city of Stockholm have just recently gone to a cycle logistics company. For, of course, not for every good, but for the ones that are suited. So this is one of the big changes, I think, that happened during the last year, is this explosion of cycle logistics, which is fantastic to see. So basically, I conclude, to be very brief, obviously COVID and the COVID situation has really increased the interest for cycling. There's more bikes than ever. People have better bikes because they bought new ones. We have more cyclists. And commuters have switched from public transport to cycling to some extent, and I hope at least a part of them will continue to cycle. A larger increase was on leisure cycling, cycle holidays. Is a very clear growth. Another trend that has been accelerated by COVID was the digital events. So digital cycling events that will certainly grow and will be here to stay. The city's impacts, I'm not that impressed, but they're experimenting. And what's new maybe is that they started to dare to try and experiment with temporary solutions. And some of them will, of course, prove themselves suitable and will stay, and some will vanish. But at least there's been a new openness to experiment. And I think we will see, as a trend, as a follow of that, we will see more mixed traffic solutions, because especially as the COVID situation showed, you cannot build cycle infrastructure as quickly as we need, especially if you have such a quick change. So mixed traffic with low speed is the quick way forward, and this is growing as well. Public transport has a change of attitude and integrated digitally. And finally, bike logistics has really, really got a boost. So that's my sort of observations on the COVID impact on cycling. And I hope that gave you a little insight. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them, or you can mail me anytime. Thanks.
Okay, Mike, thank you. Thanks a lot for joining us. It's a pity you couldn't make it, because it would be lovely to have you here, because Michael has ties with our country and he has been many, many times. And I was in Göteborg last year in October, and I see the progress. I'm really happy that we had two speakers from Scandinavian countries. We had you, and we had Norwegian embassy speaking about Stavanger and Oslo. And it's a good example for us. It's not only about Netherlands and other countries, but the Scandinavian countries are doing great progress. So
we're trying our best, even if it's slow.
Máte někdo otázku? I would like to ask a question about, you spoke about the mobile applications and for cyclists. Recently somebody made me aware of the problem that the Google Maps, they don't allow, for example, in Prague, to find your way on a bike, which was for me surprising, because Vienna, many other cities, they offer it. Is it in Göteborg or in Sweden in general?
But the reason, I don't know, of course, how you've organized it, but Google Maps, at least in Sweden and probably in most countries where they provide cycle infrastructure, they use the official databases on cycle infrastructure. Now in Sweden, this would be the national road database from the road administration. And if the bike tracks are in there, Google can access that if it's open for them, and then provide the information. So what I assume is that they're simply not available. The data is not available. Google is not going to put this data in the maps
on their own
themselves.
Yeah.
But if there is an official map digitally available, then Google will happily connect to that one if it's the right format and all that. But I think the IT people can easily solve that. The key is to have the official information digitally available.
Okay, yeah. Thanks a lot, Michael. Again, there's no more question, but we can contact you if the people send me their questions. I can put it to your email address. Yeah?
No worries. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Takže dostáváme se,
So right now there should have been another presentation by Anna Karina Reibold. She should have been talking about trends in e-cargo bike, but unfortunately she had the second dose of vaccine and she's not feeling very well. So her presentation will not be presented. But we will send you a link to all the presentation. I would like to thank you, all of you. If you don't have any questions, I would like to thank mainly to a program by the German Ministry of Environment, because I would like to again thank to the Prague institutions. I would like to thank the Foundation Automat, and we are all welcoming you to Pankráts. In the afternoon, we'll be starting a big spring cycle ride, which will be the end of today's celebration of World Bike Day. We will go through the center and we will end on Štvanice in Prague Bike Chicken and Prague Bike Jesus. So these are our friends. I thank you all very much. Please don't forget to give the headphones. I would like to thank to the camp technicians, and then I would like to thank to our interpreters, and I thank you very much, and I would like to ask you for